I love the teachings on the eight worldly winds because they are so descriptive. They name the wind patterns that push us around all day long, and they show us what might be more helpful, a way of relating to these predictably unpredictable weather patterns that we humans create. You see, we cannot stop the winds. They're going to keep coming, but we can learn to steady ourselves while they are here, not get carried away, like an old tree whose roots sink and settle with each passing year. The ever-changing weight and height and girth of the tree, the feeling sinks and settles, and we feel more planted, more rooted in place, in the ground, in the present moment. And we feel a little safer, maybe a little bit more comfortable in the discomfort and the winds that are passing through the upper branches and swaying and blowing them around. And that trunk of the tree is dynamically steady in place. It's not glued into place. It's not rigid. It moves because it's alive. Trees are also alive, and so they move ever so slightly. And then with each passing year, as the tree manages to weather the different and the big storms, well, the tree grows into an elder. Or maybe you might think about being like a bamboo, like a piece of bamboo, the hollow center, that hollow center that allows that bamboo to, when a big storm is blowing through, to let that bamboo bend all the way down to the ground and not break. Now that's yielding. That's yielding to the nature of the experience that's happening before us. So yes, here I am back to trees again. You know, there's such good teachers. There's such good teachers for us. Trees are built to stay upright, even in the middle of a storm. They learn how to bend and not break. And we truly have to learn how to bend and not break when the conditions change for us. And we can learn, just like trees, learn how to see the storms more clearly, how to read the signs when we are about to get swept away. And by giving them a label, like today we're going to use gain and loss. We're going to talk about gain and loss. By using a label, we can learn how to stand, so to speak, in the trade winds of gain and loss, yielding just enough, not too much, not too little, but just enough to stay dynamically steady in its present, right? So that we're able to see and feel the poles of gain and loss. So let's just take a look more specifically at gain and loss, because they're not always what they seem to be. So prepare yourself. Sometimes when we gain, we gain. And sometimes when we lose, or when we gain, we lose. I know, it can seem confusing. And then sometimes when we lose, we really lose. And then other times, when we lose, we gain. In other words, let's not assume that just because something is a gain, it's good, it's helpful, it's useful. Maybe so, maybe not. You can have too much of a good thing, you know, right? And not enough of it too, right? And just because it's a gain, it doesn't mean that it's pleasant. And just because it's a loss, it doesn't mean it's unpleasant. Oh boy, right? The trade winds, they push us around and there's no logic to them. So we really have to stand in the experience to get a feel for what's happening inside. And gratefully, we can begin to track gain and loss. And as we do, we can also begin to track our automatic reactions to gain and loss, and then begin to steady ourselves. For example, by reminding ourselves that all good things are going to come to an end. Even if we've accrued a ton of wealth in our life, we can't live forever. We can't necessarily spend all of the money. We're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to lose everything at some point. Now, that's not bad. That's not even morbid. That's just being aware of the truth of how things are. And by becoming aware of the truth of what it means to be alive, well, that awareness also allows for me to make choices about how I live, and allows me to consider what I accrue, what I choose to hold onto. It offers choice. We want choice. Sometimes when we gain, we gain. The premature baby gains weight and everybody is relieved. The middle-aged person notices their mysterious weight gain and their inability to lose it. The gain is the gain. The gain isn't necessarily good, right? And then there's the gain of winning, a prize, a praise, money, possessions. There's the gain of knowledge or position or power through our education, the advantages afforded by having enough or more than enough. When is enough enough? So we can stop swinging between these poles. How do we notice when we have enough? Bill and David both talked about a people that never feel like they have enough wealth. They can't rest. Their narcissistic recalibration keeps raising the bar and they never feel satisfied with what they have. What a bummer. What a bummer, really. To have so much and not realize what you have, that is sad. But then there are these quieter gains that are embedded in life that we can easily miss. The gains of having enough of the essentials, clean water, nutritious food, clothing and shelter from the elements, safety from danger, and enough to keep us alive. I mean, do we notice those gains that feed our hearts good food? Might be a good idea. We have the gains of waking up to a breath that's already moving in our body when we wake up in the morning. I didn't make that happen. No, that's just a boon. That's just a boon to my existence. I'm alive now, right? We have the subtler gains that can easily be missed, like the gains of health, until we don't have it, right? We only notice our health often in hindsight. We get sick and then we say, man, I wish I had recognized all the good years of health I had, right? We just don't notice that sometimes. Or we might notice the regaining of health. Well, my goodness, notice and appreciate the regaining of health, much to be celebrated right here and now before our very eyes. Right? So let's take inventory of what's here and now and appreciate it. This strengthens the heartwood of archery. It helps us to feel good inside, to notice and recollect that we have enough, that we are enough, just as we are, which is, well, we'll get into that another time. But it's an understanding that we're enough. It's good to understand that we are enough, just as we are, just as we are. And then sometimes we have gain. When we have gain, we lose. That middle-aged person who gained the weight and can't figure out how to lose the weight, well, they are also at higher risk, potentially anyway, of health issues that will arise from that from not necessarily noticing the weight that has gained, from the unnoticed, unchecked, and unattended to weight gain. So it might be a good idea to notice the weight gain and notice the impact on our health and well-being, right? Sometimes gain is a loss, and we want to notice that. Right? The gaining of wealth, well, I might suggest to you that's also a burden. The gaining of possessions, and I might suggest to you that that's also a burden. More things to attend to, less time for other things. We lose time and energy the more we acquire. And so it goes. So steady yourself. See what you're acquiring. Sometimes the gaining of our self-esteem means that we lose people in our lives. Now, isn't that interesting? Sometimes the gaining of self-esteem By gaining self-esteem, we choose to set limits that we haven't set before, and people don't necessarily like that. Friends and family don't appreciate that. And so we might lose friends and family that aren't comfortable with the healthier boundaries. But that loss, as hard as that loss may be, that loss also makes room, opens up, allows for new people to enter our life. And in that, the loss becomes the possible gain. Just like when the colleague in the company leaves the company and suddenly makes room for you to advance into their position, or the spring cleaning that we do in our houses when we let go of all of those extraneous items that we no longer use, and it yields the experience of space and ease, like, oh man, doesn't this feel good? The room feels tidy and clean and all that stuff is gone, right? And then sometimes when we lose, we lose. We didn't get the job. We didn't make the cut. We never had a chance to whatever, fill in the blank. And sometimes when we lose, like the more serious kind of losing, when we lose loved ones, when loved ones die, when we're separated from them. Those are perhaps the hardest losses of all, aren't they? Grief, sorrow, lamentation, the sobriety of death and loss in that way. But that also holds in it the potential to illuminate the preciousness of life, the one that's happening right now, that you're living. You see, opposites illuminate one another. We don't want to miss that. Because landing in the preciousness of life, that is a gain. One that we can take in and appreciate. It will all be over soon enough. Kiss the joy as it flies and live in eternity's sunrise, as Blake says. Isn't that what he means? Live in this present moment of joy. That's all there is. And let's let loss tenderize our hearts into appreciating more of what we have, like these breathing bodies. Let's land here right now in these breathing bodies and appreciate what we have. The gain of clean air right now. The gain of healthy enough to be sitting here. The gain of good company right here, right now, before our very eyes. Let's rest in our abundance and strengthen the root systems of our tree. Clean air, good and healthy enough bodies, good company. This is how we grow our hearts. This is how we grow resilient. This is how we strengthen the root systems. So let's appreciate our gains in this moment.